Welcome to this week's Q&A. We've got a very good question from one of our viewers in Sydney today, and this person's a first home buyer, and it's a question we get asked quite often actually. People are saying, and this person said, look, why aren't housing values dropping in Sydney? We've been reading all the press, news articles, that the ongoing elevated high interest rates that have been persisting for over a year now in Australia, and increased cost of living pressures due to ongoing inflation are causing a lot of hand wringing, a lot of people to feel the pinch, as it were, in making their non-discretionary commitment payments, and mortgages, food, utilities, etc. So saying, well, look, we thought that this is going to play into our hands, and it's going to cause a lot of existing property owners to become forced sellers, and that will give us an opportunity to enter the market because prices will come down, and that would enable us to afford to get into the market. So the second part was, well, what do you think is going to happen? And it is a question being asked by many people, because the Sydney market's certainly a very expensive one to enter, especially if you're a first home buyer. And I've looked at the latest data we've just seen from CoreLogic to try and, I suppose, enable us to make some sense of what's going on at the moment. So, if you have a look at this slide, and it's just something data that's just been presented. I mean, despite these high interest rates and the cost of living pressures and the low consumer sentiment, purchasing activity has actually ramped up over the last couple of months again. And it's something that's, perhaps counterintuitive, but sales volumes, whilst they had a fairly sharp decline, a lot of that's seasonally, I suppose, implied once you have Christmas and January come in. But even auction clearance rates are again trending very robustly. So people are still buying properties, and unfortunately that lends us to follow along the pathway that potentially these high interest rates are not going to cause the market to cave in and force people to sell their properties. So, if we look at some of the underlying imbalances that exist, especially supply and demand, overseas migration, a lot of sort of, lack of new supply coming on. These are all factors we look at in our quarterly reviews in some great detail. But just to answer this viewer's question, and it's a question held by many, what can we look forward to? Well, perhaps there may not be any really good news coming along through that, because what's happened now is that people are anticipating interest rates to stay higher for longer, but they're also anticipating interest rates to fall later this year. And there's been an increase, I suppose, in forecasters saying that interest rates are not going to be lowered by the RBA until the end of this year, or perhaps not until 2025, so next year. And I don't believe that's going to happen. I think it may happen a little sooner than that. However, the latest employment numbers from February have shown that unemployment has really plunged considerably down to 3.7% from 4.1% last month. So that may actually lend a lot of credence to the people who are saying, look, rates could stay on hold for the rest of the year, and I think realistically we need to just see what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 months of data as that comes through, because that's probably going to guide the the board directors at the RBA in relation to what they do with monetary policy. So two ways of looking at that. One of them, yep, rates are going to be high, continue to remain where they are for some time, perhaps. But on the other hand, people are saying, well, look, I think rates have gone as far as they're going to go, and we're going to see some relief down the track, whenever that may be. So that's potentially causing this uplift in transactions and in activity in the housing markets, as people are saying, well, I'd like to buy now, perhaps when the market is easier to enter than it may be, down the track. Maybe this time next year is going to be a different story if rates do come down and more people are looking to purchase and have the ability to do so. So that's on the one hand what's happening. And the other issue is, as we all know, that Sydney is a very expensive property market, and this graph, detailing the various capital city market makes a very clear distinction between Sydney and basically all the rest. And it also shows why other markets like Adelaide, Perth, Brisbane are performing very strongly as opposed to potentially the Sydney and Melbourne markets, because they're really suffering at the moment in relation to this affordability situation. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that and see how we go, and given time it's coming up. So that's that part. And then I suppose we've got to look at again what's happening in macro terms, and all the major bank economists have revised their forecasts in relation to what's going to happen in their view to housing values over the course of 2024. They've revised down their numbers for Sydney and Melbourne, and revised the numbers up for Perth, Brisbane and Adelaide. But overall, if we look at it on a macro level, they're still forecasting price rises between 4.9 and 6%, depending on which bank you're listening to. So that also underpins, I suppose, people's expectations of what may happen in the future, and it doesn't assist people who are looking to enter a very highly priced market like Sydney at the moment, especially if they're first home buyers and are looking to borrow a significant amount of capital to fund those purchases. So look, if you found this of interest, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click like. And if you want some advice around your own personal set of circumstances, please don't hesitate to reach out, email us or call us, and we'll have somebody contact you to see if we can assist you with your own situation. I'm Andrew Unterweger, and I'll see you at the next Q&A.